First wide receiver drafted in the last 10 drafts, starting over here with Marvin Harrison Jr., okay? So far, not a great first year, especially when there was 2 wide receivers under him with Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. that did better than him, like a lot better. And you got Jackson Smith over here. Didn't look good his first year, but second year definitely pulled through. Definitely think he was a pretty good pick here. All right, Drake London hasn't been bad, but it was a little rough that like right after him went 2 wide receivers that you could arguably say that were better. Because right after him came Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and they both have been pretty good. So I wouldn't say Drake London was bad, but still it was a little bit close there. When you put them head to head, it does look like Garrett Wilson does edge out Drake London because they both had questionable quarterback play during their career so far. But I still lean toward Wilson. The one that's most impressive here is Ja'Marr Chase because he not only like was the best of like all these people, but he held off a lot of great wide receivers in that draft. They had right after him, they had Devontae Smith, they had Jalen Waddle, they had Nico Collins, they had St. Brown. Like he held off all those guys, and he's still like the top dog there. That's impressive because any of those other guys you could argue would be like the best out of any of these picks. Henry Ruggs, obviously the biggest bust out of this entire list. Just awful, especially the talent that came after him. Because you look at Henry Ruggs and you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Justin Jefferson. I mean, heck, even Jerry Jeudy I'd take over him. T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, like they missed big time taking Henry Ruggs. But that's the Raiders' way, right? They always pick wrong every time. I mean, I'm a fan of the Raiders, so we always mess up. Jamarcus Russell, Henry Ruggs. I mean, just it goes on and on and on. Then you got Hollywood Brown over here. Oh man, another one that was just Brown's still in the league. He's still doing decent, right? He's still a good wide receiver. Like it was not like a terrible pick like Ruggs over here. But the talent after him was also questionable because you got Deebo Samuel and A.J. Brown right after, and DK Metcalf. I mean, even Deontay Johnson and Terry McLaurin. Like, dude, that's a lot of talent. I'd take over Hollywood Brown. The only way maybe I wouldn't take over Hollywood, I don't know. I'd probably still take Deontay Johnson because he's put up pretty good stats. But, oh, man, that's a rough one. Next up, you got DJ Moore. Great pick. I don't think they missed on that one at all. I think he was the best one in that draft. Then you got Corey Davis over here. This one did not work out, especially because with that same draft, you had Cooper Kupp in it, and they didn't get him. Then Corey Coleman over here was not a good one. It wasn't like a great draft actually for most wide receivers in there because the rest of this list, like it's decent wide receivers. Like outside like Michael Thomas was like, oh man, that's the best like slant wide receiver of all time. And then you also have Tyreek Hill down here, who's also really good. So outside of those two, like it was a little bit rough. Like it wasn't like, oh, these are dominant wide receivers outside of those two guys. And then Amari Cooper was definitely the best one in his draft, I think, for that position. But what do you guys think? Because it looks like it's only about 3 times that they really like nailed the first wide receiver in the draft. With this, I mean, 30% of the time they get the best wide receiver. So if you get the first wide receiver this year, don't expect that you got the top dog in the draft, okay? And if you missed out on them, you could still get the best wide receiver later on.